France, 1789. Bread costs more this week than last, and last week already felt impossible. The baker's queue starts in the dark and ends in arguments. Tax collectors don't blink. At Versailles, silk whispers in marbled corridors while the treasury rattles like an empty cup. A kingdom that helped win American independence can't balance its own books. Debt, drought, and distrust have stacked like kindling. All they need is a spark. For years, the monarchy papered over deficits with short-term loans and optimistic accounting. The harvest of 1788 failed. Mills froze and flour prices climbed. When you can't afford bread, politics is not a theory. It's dinner or no dinner. Philosophers had planted ideas about rights and sovereignty, but ideas travel fastest when the stomach is hollow. France's social order, divided into 3 estates, is suddenly a question people ask out loud. Why do clergy and nobles pay so little while the 3rd estate, everyone else, pays so much? The 1st estate is the clergy, parishes that baptize and bury, bishops who enjoy income from lands. The 2nd estate is the nobility, titled families with hunting rights, dues, and exemptions that date back centuries. The 3rd estate is 90-something% of the nation, peasants, artisans, professionals, merchants, diverse in wealth and culture, but largely shut out of power. 1 estate carries the kingdom, 2 estates carry the privileges. Bankruptcy is no longer a rumor. To raise money and legitimacy, the crown reaches for an antique tool, the estates general, not summoned since 1614. Suddenly, towns and villages across France elect delegates and draft notebooks of grievances, cahiers de doléances, lists of what must change. You can read them and feel a nation thinking out loud. Fairer taxes, an end to feudal dues, access to justice, a constitution to bind the powerful to the same laws as the powerless. Delegates arrive at Versailles with hope and caution, but the first crack appears in the voting rules. Should the estates vote by order, where each estate gets 1 vote, 2 privileged orders against the 3rd, or by head, counting each deputy? By order preserves the old balance. By head recognizes the nation's majority. The fight over arithmetic is really a fight over sovereignty. Weeks drag on. The hall becomes a pressure cooker of speeches, pamphlets, and procedural traps. Then, impatience hardens into action. On June 17th, the deputies of the 3rd estate declare themselves the National Assembly, claiming to represent the people directly and inviting others to join. Some clergy peel off and sit with them, a few nobles too. A line has been crossed. Authority now flows from the nation, not from corporate privilege. The court tries a lock and key. Barred from their usual meeting place, the deputies reconvene in a nearby indoor tennis court. There, on June 20th, they swear not to disperse until France has a constitution. It is a simple, stubborn promise, an oath against evaporation. In that moment, you can feel monarchy bending, not breaking yet, but bending. The king hesitates. First, he orders the estates to meet together, a concession to reality. Then he brings troops toward Paris, a concession to fear. The mix is volatile. Reform on paper, bayonets in the streets. The mood in the capital swings from expectancy to alarm. On July 11th, the popular finance minister, one of the few officials many Parisians trust, is dismissed. In coffee houses and gardens, the news detonates. Crowds gather. A young journalist jumps on a table and shouts that the people must arm themselves. Parisians raid gun shops and the Hôtel des Invalides for muskets. They still need powder and shot, and everyone knows where those are stored, behind the gray walls of a medieval fortress that has come to symbolize royal arbitrary power. July 14th. A crowd converges on the Bastille, Negotiations are clumsy. Misunderstandings blur into musket fire. Cannon appear on the ramparts. Cannon appear in the hands of the crowd. Hours pass. By late afternoon, the garrison surrenders. The governor is seized and, in a gesture theatrical and terrifying, killed. His head is paraded on a pike. 7 prisoners walk out, few in number, enormous in symbolism. The fortress falls, and with it the illusion that the old regime can scare the capital into obedience. The king rides into Paris under new colors. The tricolor cockade, blue and red for the city, white for the crown, pins reform and monarchy together, at least for the camera of history. Lafayette takes command of a new National Guard, citizen soldiers tasked with keeping order without erasing the revolution that created them. For a moment, you can believe in a constitutional monarchy that will thread the needle between liberty and stability. In the countryside, rumor gallops faster than decrees. The great fear sweeps village after village in July and August. People hear that brigands are coming, or that nobles plan to starve them into submission, or that foreign troops are already across the border. Communities arm themselves. Some seize manor houses and burn the records that document feudal dues. Panic is messy, but it clarifies the political stakes. Reform must move faster than fear. In Versailles, deputies read reports from the provinces and understand the fuse is burning toward them. In a dramatic all-night session on August 4th, noble and clergy deputies rise one after another to renounce privileges, hunting rights, manorial courts, feudal dues. Some renunciations are absolute, some will later be hedged, but the headline is unmistakable. The legal architecture of privilege is being torn down in public. Weeks later, a new text crystallizes what the revolution claims to stand for. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen sets out principles: liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression. It asserts that sovereignty resides in the nation and that law should be an expression of the general will. It recognizes freedom of speech and equality before the law. It is both manifesto and measuring stick, a promise to judge future actions against. And yet, people can't eat principles. Parisian market women, the workers who feel price shocks first and longest, have had enough of speeches and delays. In early October, as rain needles the roads, thousands march to Versailles, demanding bread and a solution. Tension spikes. The royal family is escorted back to Paris under the gaze of the crowd. The court's geographic move is a political move. Power now lives where the people live. Inside the city, change accelerates. Church lands are nationalized to back the new paper money, assignats. Old provinces give way to new departments drawn by straight edge and principle. Titles fade from use as Monsieur and Madame meet citizen. Clubs form, newspapers multiply, and political language turns into fashion. Cockades, sashes, pamphlets, and songs. The revolution becomes something you can wear, sing, and carry. By the end of 1789, France is not fixed, it is reconfigured. The Estates General has morphed into a national assembly. A constitution is in progress. Privileges have been slashed, rights declared, and the monarchy has, willingly or not, accepted a nation watching closely from the streets outside. Hope feels real, so do the obstacles. The contradictions are already visible. Property rights meet demands for cheap bread. Freedom of the press meets the fury of political clubs. Catholic tradition meets the secular ambitions of the state. Moderates dream of a balanced constitution. Radicals argue that balance is just the old inequity with new branding. Émigrés leave the country, convinced the whole project is a fever that will break. Foreign monarchies watch and calculate. The crowd, the assembly, and the king share a stage none of them can control. So how does the French Revolution begin? Not with a single speech or a perfect plan, but with a cascade. Hunger that exposes fiscal rot, a debate over voting rules that exposes where sovereignty lies, a locked door that produces an oath, a dismissal that sparks a city, a fortress that becomes a tomb for fear, a countryside that burns its chains, and a declaration that names ideals out loud. The revolution's first year takes a society of subjects and teaches it a new word: citizen. If you zoom in on the moments, you find faces worth remembering. The lawyer who drafts the argument that the nation can exist without the king, but the king cannot exist without the nation. The printer who sets a pamphlet in hot metal so ideas can move faster than orders. The woman who